Welcome into Chatterbox Bearcats. I am Nick Niehaus, joined always by Eric Lilly, and this is another edition of the midweek show. And Lilly, our greatest fears have come true. The Cincinnati Bearcats will be playing in the Crown. Contractually obligated, I believe, is what everybody has been saying. Details out there, there's not many of them. So, a lot of guessing going on the last month or so, whether we're going to be forced to play in this, whether we want to play in this. Bottom line is the Cincinnati Bearcats are playing in this tournament at the end of March. We'll talk about that. Then, of course, we have a new hire on Wes Miller's staff. Also, we end with some football thoughts from Lilly himself. But we're going to start off with the Crown, Lilly. That's why people are listening. They want to hear us talk about this. What do you think about the Bearcats playing in this abomination of a tournament?
I hate it. That first year we got into the NIT, I didn't even want it then. And I know it sounds like bad tone, like we're better than this tournament and stuff, but I just don't know if this does anything. And especially this year when we're expecting a bunch of roster turnover. And then combine the fact that the Crown doesn't start till April Fool's Day. So like literally the Final Four, the week before the Final Four, we'll be playing against the Ball. Doesn't sit right with me. It's tough, man. Like the off season, we're ready for closure. We're ready to move on from this team. It was, I tweeted out, and I know like a lot of people agree with this. This is one of the more miserable seasons that we've experienced, I think. And when I say miserable, I mean, I'm not talking about the shitty MIC teams at the beginning. Like that wasn't misery. We knew it was going to be bad. This was miserable. Last year was miserable. The Lance Stevenson year was miserable. You need expectations to have like true pain in sports for me as a fan. If we're going to stink, I'm ready for it, you know? I wasn't ready for this. And this is just like icing on the cake. Like it doesn't get worse, right?
I don't think so, because I think if it was worse record-wise or season-wise, we'd probably be looking for a new head coach, right? So you'd
We'd
have
some more podcasts for sure.
We'd have more podcasts. It'd be a little more exciting. And no, you said it all year. It feels like this purgatory where we're just missing the tournament. Now, we didn't even sweat this year. And I don't even think we sweat the past 2 years either. So that's 6 years without even sweating an NCAA tournament, pretty much. Now, COVID, I believe that we probably would have made the tournament that year if COVID hadn't canceled it. But just absolutely miserable of a year. And I think I was just coping the last couple of weeks, as I truly thought, or I guess last week when the season was over, I thought that was it. I was like, you know what? UC's not going to have 7 scholarship players, to play in this tournament. But it seems like the guys are going to play. And why? I don't know. But it's awful, Lilly. There's no other way to put it. I don't think you talk to another UC fan who's excited to watch this team play in the Crown. And it's kind of like sad to say, like we're saying this behind microphones that like we don't want to watch our team play. I think that's just a microcosm of how bad this year has been for the Cincinnati Bearcats. And look, they're contractually obligated. I don't think we choose to play in this thing if they weren't forced to. So just bad vibes all around, Lilly. There's nothing really good to say. It's kind of hop behind the mic and vent for 30 minutes.
Yeah, and like back in the day when the portal wasn't really a thing, like the NIT, and if this thing existed 20 years ago, would feel a little better because you know I want to see the guys. Like I want to see the younger guys play a little more, see what we got coming up. Now in this era, it's like, who gives a shit? Like the guys we want to see are probably playing in the tournament too. Like we don't know. We can't be like, that guy's coming to UC, I'm excited to watch him. So it's just nothing to look forward to. Like, I'm going to watch the game and my heart rate won't go up. And that's not a good sign.
Well, there's none to look forward to. The things that I'm going to look forward to, and we can talk about the roster here and get back to the crown because we do. I didn't even mention who we played. We played DePaul and then possibly UCF or Oregon State. The winner of our game goes on to play the winner of that game. But kind of want to talk about the roster and maybe who we will see play in the crown and who we're not going to see. Look, when it comes to this stuff, this is pure speculation. I don't have any, you know, I haven't talked to any of these players, right? But when you look at the roster, you say there's none to be excited about. What you get excited about is the portal, is seeing some of these guys leave, which is unfortunate that we're at this point, that you're going to get excited seeing some guys hit the portal just so that we can get some new guys in. We had a lot of questions towards the end of the year on who you want back, who could you see leave. I think it's time to answer that. I know you said you wanted to see how the guys finish off the season, see who wants to be a Bearcat, who plays hard. But I'm going to put you on the spot. I mean, what do you want to see done to this roster here in the portal?
It's weird. Just to add a little context here, it's like, about a month or two ago, or, a month and a half ago, there was like some decent speculation that the locker room was kind of bad. Like there are people posting on Twitter that guys might quit during the season, stuff like that. And none of it happened. Guys were still trying. I think the biggest issue with this team was guys weren't like doing that extra 10% that we're accustomed to seeing, which, you got to do it. It's the Big 12, right? And so, yeah, the effort wasn't good enough. And I like down the stretch, I kept changing my opinion on every player, game to game. And it made it even worse as a fan. It's like, I don't know who I want. And I still don't know. That's bad, right? Like that's the thing is like you could ask 50 UC fans like who they want to leave the most, and you might get the whole roster answered.
Yeah, you might.
It's like,
truly.
I think I know a lot of people want Aziz to go. He walked during senior day. He's probably not coming back. There could be that little loophole where him and like guys like Jameel Reynolds could get another year. But I personally, Dylan Mitchell bothered me a little more. I just think he's a lob threat, but the fact that he cannot make a free throw, doesn't really have a post game, can't really create his own shot, can't really make a three. It's just like he's too easy to guard, in my opinion. And if he beats you, you just foul him, right? Like it's pretty simple. To me, him and Dan are like highly paid players at positions where you can get someone else in, the 5 spot's hard, if to get a really good 5 in here that we will feel confident going into the season, it's going to cost a lot of money. And I don't know how many are going to be in the portal. But I do think we're going to see a lot of change. And I think number 1 and 2 on my list would be Dan and Dylan. But at the same time, every single player on this team, if in their exit interview with Wes, if they're like, what, coach, I want to fix this, I'm taking them all back. That's the problem here is like none of them are so bad at everything that like I don't want them back if they think they can turn it around here. And the issue then is, well, someone has to leave, right? Like we have to change things. So I'm not worried about that. Guys are going to leave, but like every single player on this team, if they want to be here and fight for it, I'm taking them back. So it's just a weird spot to be in. It feels like another layer of the purgatory, I guess, is what it feels like.
Yeah. I'm not taking them back. But I will have a positive spin on it and talk about who I do want back, because I do think there's some pieces that are valuable and that can lead us to some success next year. And let me start off with the obvious, right? The writing on the wall. The writing on the wall seems to be Dan and Paige. I mean, Paige didn't even get any. We're getting absolutely murdered by Iowa State down low, and West didn't even think about putting Arrington Page in. So that if you have, you know, a functioning brain, one would lead you to think that he's either gone or he's okay being sat as the 15th man next year on our roster. So I would say Page is probably gone. Dan, it seems like that, there's just so much smoke around, how that ended this year and whatnot. But those are the only two that are very glaring.
Chuck wants him back, man.
Chuck does want him back. He said it against Iowa State. Or that was Oklahoma State. But anyway, those are the only two that seems like glaringly obvious where it's like these guys are probably not going to be back. So those are the only two I'll speculate on definitely leaving. I really would love to see Day Thomas back in a Bearcat uniform. I really would. I thought he ended the season very well. I think, he'd be a great mentor to Keyshawn Tillery. I don't think he'd be that expensive, right? But he's old, and you see some of these teams that are having success, they're old, and you want to get old and stay old. And I think Day has that maturity. I think he plays really hard. Yeah, he makes you want to rip your hair out when he misses a wide open dunk, but that doesn't happen that often. They're just loud, right? So Day somebody I really want back. And I got to say, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this because I was dogging him all year, but I don't mind Connor Hickman coming back as a backup option, a ninth guy off the bench. Again, probably not going to be expensive. Essentially, I'm playing Moneyball here, Lilly. I'm playing Moneyball.
It's a team building exercise, really. That's what we're doing. Yeah,
with this salary cap deal, I mean, I'm getting these guys who are going to fill out the roster. Like, if you told me that Jizzle cost $1 million, I'm going to be like, you know what? I'd rather spend that $1 million on a big. I'd rather save that money and get somebody out of the portal that, doesn't rely on the worst shot in basketball. So, I know everybody wanted to hear us talk about the roster, so that's mine. I'm going to give you Day. I'm good with Hickman coming back, and then Tyler McKinley, obviously. We haven't seen what he can do. I'm excited to see, his potential. He's going to be a freshman next year, probably getting some PT. And then I'm never going to kick out like Rayvon Griffith or any of these guys that are probably not commanding much money. So, those are probably
Josh Reed is kind of in that conversation, but it seems like people are pretty split on that one.
That is that's one that is probably tough. I would say I'm indifferent with Josh when it comes to Josh Reed.
If his role stays the same, I think it makes sense to try to keep him.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I don't want to make this let's go through every single player. Do we keep him? Do we throw him to the curb? But when it comes to keeping guys, I think Day Thomas is a good start. And I'm just excited to see us go after some big money players in the portal. I know we probably have a big money guy coming in as a freshman with Sean Abayev, but you got to think with some of these guys that we're going to, lose, CMOS being one who's probably making a good chunk of change. Dan probably making some money. I'm excited what West can do in this portal. So I keep saying it's a win-win for next year. We're either better or we're going to be looking for a new head coach. So a win-win for next year when it comes to that. Speaking of new coaches, we have a new hire on West's staff. Corey Evans is the new general manager, allegedly, right? I don't even think this is announced yet by the University of Cincinnati, but by all accounts, Corey Evans is going to be the GM. Now, Lilly, we need to break down what a GM is going to do in a college athletics program. So break it down for the people listening. This guy's just going to seek out talent, try to, construct a roster. Has nothing to do with in-game coaching or practices or anything of that nature, correct? So this guy is, as if it's a pro franchise, going to just be seeking out players.
Yeah, and it seems like some teams are going different routes with this. And it depends on the coach, I think. It's like for instance, with the football program, Scott Satterfield, Zach Grant, the front office is split. Like they have a lot of power with personnel. Like I'm pretty sure they can overrule the coaching staff on some things in terms of bringing guys in. And I'm not entirely sure that's going to happen in basketball. The teams are smaller. The coaches, there's a couple football coaches that just have massive ego. Like, they control the entire program, stuff like that. But with basketball, it's so small that it feels like the coach just has all the power, if that makes sense. I'm not, I'm going to try to find out here, but it's not going to be this isn't like an agent hire. Like North Carolina hired a guy that's more of a pro agent and has tons of connections. Corey's more of he also has tons of connections, but he was a high school grassroots guy for years and years and years at Rivals. And Oklahoma City, which is, they're in terms of NBA stuff, like doing things different, Sam Presti, OKC, they're like the leader in this department of hiring. Like, not every NBA team 5 years ago was scouting high school guys, probably, but OKC was, and they were hiring high school guys away. They had a full-blown staff for just grassroots evaluations. And just so people understand, it's like they're trying to get scouting reports, information, just all of how they feel about a prospect when they're in high school, right? Because when they get to college, there's a lot of systems and coaches that are archaic, rigid. Like, you don't exactly get to see the best things out of players. And the Thunder want to know, like, how did we feel about this guy before he went to Kentucky and he wasn't allowed to shoot threes? Stuff like that. And then it's like, there's upside there because we know he did it, but he didn't do it in college. So OKC was the leader in that. I think it's pretty exciting hire in that department. And also timing wise, like, we're going to have a lot of spots. We need a GM, like, legit. Like, this is a necessary hire because the fans need to see something change, right? I don't think we're going to move on from assistants. I think hiring assistants when you're on the hot seat is very hard. You kind of just got to stick with what you got and hope it works out. But this is a good way to make a change. And if you're bringing in 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 guys, why not hire an NBA guy who has been scouting 5 stars and 4 stars for the last 6 years? And not to ramble much longer, but like, I really think this is not like intel or inside information, but I really think we're going to be targeting 5 stars and 4 stars that went to Blue Bloods. They went to really good programs and kind of got recruited over or got hurt. Maybe they're just don't love their role. And Corey's going to be like, hey, I know this guy did this in high school. He's not doing it at Duke. I know, stuff like that. And he can do it here, though. So I think we're going to try to do some buy low stuff on talented players. We just have so many spots. But, who knows what his connections are? Honestly, it's pretty exciting. We're all ready for new players. So I'm excited to see who we get.
I'm excited too, and welcome to the modern era where you have a general manager of the University of Cincinnati men's basketball team. How about that? How does that sound? Corey Evans, welcome to Cincy.
It's crazy, man.
Crazy. But like you said, it's exciting. Now, interesting take on like the kind of players we're going to go after, because I have this year specifically been thinking about Iowa State and Texas Tech. Both 3 seeds, right? Texas Tech a 3 seed. Yeah, both 3 seeds. All mid-major guys. I know I hounded that point all year long. They're all mid-major guys. Like 9 out of their 10 starters pretty much are transferring up from a mid-major. So I was kind of excited to maybe see, and like you said, no intel, no insider information when it comes to that. But I was hoping maybe, that would be the path that Cincinnati would go on, just because it seems to be working for some of these squads. But
also it fits like our budget a little better. I think I feel like we're more in the Iowa State realm than Kansas, obviously.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But no, this guy's exciting. He's analytically driven, right, Lilly?
Yeah, he's a full-blown scout. So, all this stuff probably has like hand size of high schoolers and shit like that. And like, I don't think it eliminates the mid-majors, like I'm sure he's looking at some guys, but I just think NBA teams aren't going to really mess around with 3-star, like looking at 3-star high school kids, stuff like that. But we have our assistant coaches too. Like they have connections. Like they work recruiting before he got here. So it's going to be a lot of names.
So I would assume now, obviously, there's no like telling how it's going to work because this is a new position. But I would assume that a lot of this and a lot of what he's going to do is target the talent, right? Target the player, find out who Wes is going to go after. Then it's going to be Wes's job, obviously, just to get him. Like I'm curious kind of how this is going to work in terms of, is Wes going to have a say in who we're looking for and what kind of player and who gets to overrule what? So there's a lot of unknown when it comes to this because I'm sure it's different at every single school. And like you said, it's probably even different within the school with the football program and the basketball program because it is a lot of new and a lot that people don't know. So a very exciting hire, though, because we've seen it. We need it. The roster construction's been a hot topic.
Yeah, and like people in the industry seem pretty surprised like that we got him. So I think that's a good sign, although we all know that people in the industry love Wes Miller. So I think he's respected still, getting guys like this. And, there's a little worry that it's a little too late here, but we had to get a GM because of how many spots we have to fill here. And I'd rather it be this than just some guy we've never heard of. Corey Evans is a pretty big name in recruiting. Like grassroots, he knows everybody.
Well, there's one thing that's been circulating Twitter, and you know what I'm about to talk about when it comes to Corey Evans?
Quadri
Moore. He was big on Quadri Moore. So that is that's something. He said he liked it. He liked his hand size, right? So you're right about the whole hand size thing. Or he said he had like this best hands out of a big man or something. I don't know, but that's been circulating.
That is a funny call. Like I was going through his old tweets too. That's a pretty funny tweet, honestly. But I mean, for anyone that's taking that too seriously, it's like these guys, what his old job was. Anytime someone commits, he says something positive. It's not like the goal is to drive up engagement from that fan base. So you're going to find the one thing you like about that guy. Quadri was a 3-star and, he liked his hands. It's funny because Quadri, I'm a homer, right? I'm a homer. I can't help it. But Quadri's one of the few recruits where I watched it. I was like, I'm not really seeing it with this guy. But I've had the opposite too. I didn't like Jake, but like within like a month, he was like my favorite player.
Yeah, it happens, dude. It's hard out of high school. But no, so that I think that ties a bow on Corey Evans, and we kind of just briefly talked about the crown. We didn't talk about the matchup. I don't, obviously Chris Holtman, head coach of the DePaul.
Whoa! Let's do a DePaul preview.
I don't. Maybe the day before the actual game, we'll give you the DePaul preview. I don't think there's anything else to talk about the crown other than what we said off the rip is that this is just a joke that we're even in this spot, and that we're forced to play in this.
Actually, I got one more quick thing. Because I keep seeing people confused. The winner gets $300,000. It's split amongst the roster. Semifinalists get paid as well, not $300K. So it's not like you don't just get NIL because you win. You got to win too. And I believe that our players, this goes back to the locker room thing. I think they enjoyed this team and they like each other, and they might look at it as a quick way to make $50K. So let's see what happens.
It's like the TBT. We essentially have the TBT because some of these guys are former players, right? Already. I mean, I'm considering CMOS a former player.
If it's like the TBT, we're losing it to Paul.
Yeah. All right, Lilly, will you?
Quentin Richardson will be out there.
Yeah. Lilly, if we lose to DePaul, and It's what, 2009 again, or what was that, 2007?
It would be our second worst loss to DePaul if we lose.
Yeah, second worst loss. Absolute joke. We're in this spot. Anyway, moving on. You went to football practice last week. Tell me a little bit about that. First off, we got a Chatterbox Bearcat member at football practice. So shout out to Lilly for doing that. Anyway.
Beautiful weather, man. Like, God, it was nice being in Nippert. Sun was shining. It was like 65 degrees. This is my first practice, so it's hard to like compare to previous teams. Obviously, I wasn't there, but it really stood out, like the leadership and the culture stuff that we've been hearing for 2 years, or 1 year, because year one seemed to be a disaster in that department. And I mean, Satterfield even talked about it. Like, I think he kind of admitted that they made a mistake running it back with some fickle guys that caused problems. And it was just impressive. Every group of positions, you could tell who the leaders were. People were speaking up. Some of the new guys really stood out to me, like Jeff Caldwell. I know there's been some reporting on him talking about how much of a crazy athlete he is, but he is massive. Like, whatever Calvin Johnson was, he is like the same frame, if within 5%. He's massive. He does not, like, next to all the other wide receivers, he looks like he's playing a different position, like that big. And the other guys aren't even small. This isn't last year where we had like 6 5'9" guys running around. We'll see what happens with him. It was a really good practice for the receivers. Caleb Goody and Cyrus Allen had really big plays. They're both transfers as well. The wide receiver room is completely new, except Barry Jackson, I think. And also to the wide receiver room, there's a freshman, Gio Contosis, who is, I think, one of our higher rated recruits. And he looks the part. Like 6'1", has the body of like a senior. I don't know how, but he looks like he's ready to go. I doubt it with true freshmen, but wouldn't shock me if he's making an impact in 2 years. In terms of offensive line, that's where I was kind of standing the whole time. And when I was at UC, there was a bunch of we had a couple like just really fat offensive linemen, like just the really, like, how do you get around these guys? But this staff very obviously has a preference of like tall, more lean guys, and they all look the same. Everyone is massive. And the guy we got from Albany, Nolan Latalipe, I don't know how to pronounce it. He looks the part. Massive. 6'7". I don't know what he weighs, but massive. And he kind of stood out as a leader to me. He was talking a lot this guy got here a couple months ago. Like, says culture's great. Tyree Walker from Wisconsin, massive. Similar to Kiner with how he runs, but maybe more physical, maybe a little quicker burst. We'll see. If he stays healthy, I think he could replicate Kiner's season, maybe even better. And I think that's all I got. It was cool. It was hard to really watch everything just because, kept running into people and talking to some coaches and stuff. But I'll be back here in a couple weeks, I think. It was fun.
No further questions. I think that was the spring football report right there from Lilly.
I'm a little fired up for football after that practice.
Okay.
Everyone's excited in the spring, though, right?
You have to be.
You have excited in the spring, then you've got a bad program.
Well, especially considering where we are at. I mean, we just had a podcast about the Crown, Lilly.
Yeah.
So you saw football flying through the air by Brendan Sorsby. I'm bought
in. What's the bowl equivalent of the Crown? What are we talking about?
Liberty.
Yeah.
Liberty Bowl in Memphis.
This fan base, that just sparks something for me. Football and basketball has been overlapping in our minds, like just the underachieving and the letdowns, losing close games for 2 or 3 years now. It's like one sport right now. Like, being a Cincinnati fan is just it's like one purgatory. And just winning 7 games this year would do wonders for fan morale, believing that something is actually being built here. And At this point, I believe in the football program. We retained stars at multiple positions. They're getting guys that they want. I know they're not 4 stars that everybody wants, but they seem pretty happy with who they're getting, and they really believe in their development. So I'm excited right now. Maybe it's just because I'm sad about basketball.
Let's say you got me getting excited about the football program, and we know how I am in terms of being pessimistic about that. But no, hey, that's a good report. I'm excited about the wide receiver core, considering that was something that we talked about down the stretch of this past season, saying I don't think Sorsby regressed. I think he probably just didn't have the weapons. So it seems like we got him some weapons if you're comparing one of our guys' bodies to Megatron. So that's good. That's exciting to see. Lily,
Gotta
I'm
hope he
gonna
knows how to play football.
I'll say I hope he can catch the football, right? Let's wrap it up with some NCAA tournament talk, even though UC's not in it. Have you filled out your bracket?
I wait till the night before.
Okay.
I do it mentally, and then night before I cram it. It's a tradition unlike any other.
Okay. Do you know who you're going to have in your Final Four?
No.
Okay.
I'm feeling a little chalky. Like,
yeah,
there's a lot of data out there that suggests like these are the best 1 seeds like in decades. Like, with the COVID rule, like a lot of 24, 25-year-old guys out there, and Duke, Florida, Houston, Auburn are just nasty. Like, just I think it's the first time in KenPom history that there's been 4 teams with over a 35 net rating. But Auburn's looked a little vulnerable. Houston, there's some injury stuff. That's normal. But Cooper Flag, injury stuff. So I don't think I'm going to have all 4 in the Final Four. But the hard part is picking which one, because the 8-9 seeds look at those 8-9s and tell me that's not crazy.
Gonzaga.
They're top 10 in KenPom, and they're 8. And then you got Louisville and
crazy
and Baylor. Like, we know Baylor's kind of got issues, but they have talent. Mississippi State, Connecticut. Those are all 8-9s. Like, imagine getting a 1 seed and that's your second round game. Are you shitting me?
Yeah, that's tough. Some of the seeding I saw. One of the I think his name's Mike Rutherford, covers Louisville, and Louisville, of course, is an 8 seed, Memphis a 5 seed, and if you look at all the metrics, it's completely lopsided in Louisville's favor. And he's like, "No, I'm telling you, the committee absolutely just accidentally flipped these teams. Like, I swear, Louisville being a 5 or an 8 seed is crazy."
I'm pretty sure Louisville would be like favored like 6.5, 7 points in that game.
Yeah, and they're a 5, and Memphis is a 5 seed. So I don't know what the committee was. This was a bad year.
We got to talk about the committee.
Bad year for the committee. You talk. Go on your soapbox. Go on your.
How does Louisville get an 8 seed in North Carolina get in? You like putting Louisville at the 8 seed is basically saying you don't give a shit about what the ACC did this year, because it was underwhelming, one of the worst ACC seasons ever. And then you let UNC in, who feasted on the shitty ACC teams. It's like it feels like contradictory that Louisville was 3 seeds lower than expected, but UNC got in. I think if you told any bracketologist before that, hey, Louisville's going to be an 8 seed, every single one would have taken North Carolina out. And they also wouldn't have had Clemson as a 5. I don't know what they were doing with these seedings with the ACC teams. And then I guess the elephant in the room is West Virginia.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, talk about West Virginia.
Honestly, pouring out to West Virginia fans. It sucks being a Cincinnati fan right now, but the last 24, I guess now it's not 24. The last 30 hours, West Virginia fans went from thinking they'd be a lock in the tournament to maybe winning a game or two, keeping Iowa away from DeVry, Indiana away from him as well. If you win a couple games of the tournament, the timing can really mess up with hires, and another team might get impatient and go for their second choice instead of waiting and getting embarrassed. Because that if West Virginia wins 2 games, the the money goes up for West Virginia fans. And here we are. They've got players in the portal. They didn't make the tournament, and they didn't accept postseason invites to any tournaments, which suggests that maybe they think something's going to happen. I can't even imagine the 24. Like, we got snubbed when we were kids. I don't know if you remember that, Niehaus, but not like this. Like, this is out of nowhere. They made up some bullshit, like, you know, the Florida State injury for football. Yeah. Tucker played 8 games, and they used that as the excuse to not let the team in. This is a team sport. You should judge the team on their resume. And this is basketball. Anybody can go on a run. We see it every year. Let the team in that deserves it. Don't punish them for their teammate getting hurt. It's bullshit. And mind you, West Virginia won 4 Q1 games without him. That's double North Carolina and Xavier combined. It's ridiculous.
It honestly, I couldn't believe it that West Virginia was left out. North Carolina, you know, obviously being put in with the head of the committee being North Carolina's athletic director. What in the world? Like, how is that allowed? How is that allowed?
It's just, even if it's not corrupt, it like just screams corruption.
I just can't believe that's something that is possible to happen. Is that, I mean, he's incentivized to make the tournament financially.
Quick 100,000 there for Bubba.
What? I can't believe it. Truly,
Niehaus, if you're, you know, say we're playing college basketball this whole time and there wasn't the tournament. Just say the season ended, like the top 6 teams played each other or something. If you were in charge of building a tournament and picking people to pick teams for the tournament, would it even cross your mind to have athletic directors on the committee?
I would put John Cunningham on the committee, but that's it. That's it. Yeah. No, that like
we're in, baby.
To your point, no, that is absolutely absurd. Is that shouldn't even be a third option of the type of job that you want somebody having, you know, to be the head of the committee. Like that, it's absolutely ridiculous. You're right. I mean, you come up with a fake tournament. You're not even thinking about putting a school's athletic director as the chair of the committee or even on the committee. So no, I think it was a bad year for the committee. A lot of seating doesn't make sense. The teams that are actually in don't make sense. And I know we were texting back and forth, and yeah, what's happening to UC right now is absolutely awful. And the fact that we're playing in the Crown is even worse. And yes, we have a team that nobody wants to see run it back next year. People want to blow the whole thing up. But if we would have been West Virginia this year, I truly would have freaked out.
You would see me crash out for the first time.
Oh my goodness. It would have been emergency podcast, freaking out, screaming things. I mean, so I guess it can always be worse. And I hate saying that because it's been pretty damn bad this year for your Cincinnati Bearcats. But West Virginia got screwed. So I can only imagine if that was us. And you know what? Here's the tough part, and I'm going to end on this. You beat Kansas State and you beat Oklahoma State. It seems like we were a heck of a lot closer than we thought. So I don't know. Cause I mean,
part of me wonders if we just beat the shitty teams that maybe we would have got screwed too. And that would have hurt, man.
Yeah.
Well, not like West Virginia, cause they had like those statement wins, but holy crap. I mean, what do you even do? Do you just sit there and do you rage, or do you stare at the screen silently?
I mean, they thought they were in, locked. Like we thought they were locked in.
Well, every bracket.
Yeah. 111 out of 111 bracketologists had them in. This is the first time ever in the history of like covering all these bracketologists that a team has unanimously been in and been left out by the real committee. So historic stuff on Selection Sunday, a Selection Sunday that Cincinnati Bearcat fans didn't even have to watch. Lilly, any final thoughts on the crown, the Corey Evans hire, football team. Those are the three main things that we wanted to cover. I think we covered it pretty well.
Not really, but I do want to tell people we're going to be pumping out stuff here soon. This is kind of a dead period. We don't really want to do a podcast on what we need because, we don't know who's leaving yet. So as guys leave, we'll be going live. And then, we're going to probably eventually do a podcast where we just talk about team building. Once we know who's out, like what kind of point guard do we want? What kind of wing do we want? What kind of big do we want to build around who stayed? Because right now it's just like a pointless exercise. That's part of this purgatory is we don't know what the fuck's going on. So yeah, stay tuned, subscribe, and we'll be having stuff regularly here starting pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, we'll be going live for the departures and the commits. So once a player leaves, those probably can't be too long. But every commit will be live, every departure will be live. So we'll be pumping out content for the portal here shortly.
And Chuck's gonna live stream the entire Crown game, guys, on YouTube. The whole game, he's gonna just be talking UC hoops and how the game's going.
He's gonna be really happy you signed him up for that. And also, last thing, we're gonna be having a NCAA tournament bracket group. So check out our Instagram for those details. Chatterbox Bearcats on Instagram. I'll also tweet out the information. I'm sure Charlie will. But yeah, we'll be having a bracket pool. So make sure you, obviously toss in your bracket. I'm going to be having Duke winning it all. Just wanted to say that. I know you're not giving up your Final Four yet.
I might go Duke. Early favorite for the bracket pool is our guy Bearcat Nut, by the way. I can just tell he's going to be all over it.
He's going to have like 10. He's going to have 10 brackets. You know what? And I could go in a spiel of only allowing one bracket per person. That's my thing. I think if you have more than one bracket, you're doing yourself a disservice, but that's a rant for another day.
I say limit one. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, that's it, guys. Chatterbox Bearcats. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube or anywhere you get your podcasts. Give us a 5-star review. Thanks for listening. Go Bearcats.